was a nocturne by Hungarian composer Johann Caspar Merz, a piece that was written in the 19th century. It would have been appropriate for party music or an evening soiree. Now we're going to move to Cuba. I'm going to play a piece of music by probably one of the most famous, if not the most famous, living composer for the guitar. Although he's not just a composer for the guitar, he's a true composer in the truest sense. He's written music for scores and many other instruments, but we very much cherish the repertoire of music that he's written for us. This is by Cuban composer Leo Brouwer, and this piece is called Un Día de Noviembre. And this piece was written for next set of pieces that I'm going to play is collectively called Celtic Suite. And I feel like I need to go into a little bit of a sort of a very short story about why it is that I have chosen to play these pieces, not only for this virtual concert, but for other performances in the recent past. When I was a kid learning the guitar, if you're watching and you're in your 30s or 40s or even 50s and you played the guitar when you were younger, you probably remember a magazine called Guitar World or Guitar Premiere or something like that. Every so often they would have an all-acoustic guitar version of the magazine that would come out, and it would be sort of a special edition. Well, I had a subscription to this particular magazine, and this acoustic guitar version came out, and I remember being super excited because there was like a couple tunes in there that I knew that I was going to play. I didn't expect to see Celtic music in there, but I did, and I was extremely intrigued. At the time, I wasn't really playing fingerstyle guitar. I was probably playing more kind of like rock and roll music. And so these three pieces, they were for a fingerstyle, and they were arranged by one of the editors or contributors. His name is John Chappell. He's the arranger of these particular Celtic tunes. But I remember attempting to play them and not being able to play them very well, and it was very frustrating. And so like a lot of other music that I tried to play when I was that age, I just kind of forgot about it and moved on to something that was a little more immediately gratifying. The years passed, and I took my classical guitar endeavor. I studied in college and beyond, and I got better at fingerstyle. And I was rummaging through my office one day, and I found these arrangements of these three Celtic pieces, and I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if I can play these now. And so I sat down, and to be fair, it was a little bit rough upon the first reading, but it was much better than it was when I was 14 or 15. And so I decided, well, I'm going to work these up, and I want to play these for people, because it's sort of a symbol of an accomplishment that was made unknowingly, I guess, but a symbol of the inefficiency of my past playing and what I've come to be able to do now. And they're not the most complicated arrangements. They're inherently beautiful. If you know anything about Celtic music, the lyrics are the melody sometimes can be haunting, and lots of the melodies are actually in a modal setting as opposed to a tonal setting. So for that reason, they intrigue me. And also, I'm very much of the Irish bloodline with my particular family. So all of these all of these things combined inspired me to play these three pieces for you all tonight. And I'll just go ahead and tell you quickly the names of them, and it'll be in this order. The first piece that I'm going to play is sort of a lively, rhythmically driven jig. It's called Boys of Blue Hill. And then followed by that, it'll be probably the most familiar of the three songs, the Skyboat Song. And it is just a very lyrical, harmonized very wonderfully by John Chappell, but the melodic content of this piece is just very beautiful. It's really more of a ballad. And then the last piece is a little more of a lively melodic reel. It's called St. Anne's Reel. So these are three Celtic pieces. I'm going to just retune really quickly, and I hope you enjoy. piece on tonight's program is a piece that, if anyone who is perhaps unfamiliar with classical guitar repertoire knows anything about classical guitar, they probably have heard this piece at some point or another. You know, I know when I'm in a concert and I'm watching someone play and this piece is on the program, as soon as it begins to play within the first, you know, 2 notes or something like that, I hear people in the audience gasp and, oh yeah, great, you know, wonderful. And so this piece is a Spanish piece. It is simply titled Spanish Romance or Romanza in some editions. And we don't know who the author is. It's probably a traditional folk melody that has been arranged for the guitar, and as probably many of you know, Spain is sort of one of the forefathers of the modern guitar. We get a lot of our tradition and a lot of the inspiration of the repertoire that we play today from Spain. And so I never usually play this piece on a concert, but I thought, you know, I'm streaming virtually and hopefully reaching a lot of members of the community and beyond, and for all you especially you loyal concert goers that tend to come to the concerts that I present, this one in particular is especially for you. So this is a Spanish Romance. We don't know who it's by, so it's by Anonymous, and I'm happy to present it to you. There are two more pieces that I have left to play for you tonight. This next piece is perhaps, arguably, the most colorful piece, the most romantic piece on the program. This is a piece by another Spanish composer, Federico Marina Torroba. He was a 20th century Spanish composer. And he was, like Brouwer, who I mentioned earlier in the program, he was a true composer. And in particular, he was known for writing this particular Spanish style of opera called the zarzuela. But when Andres Segovia, who many of you probably have heard of and probably know and maybe even seen in concert, when Andres Segovia was traveling around the country and essentially contacting all these composers from all these different countries to write repertoire for the guitar, because this repertoire was desperately needed. We really didn't have anything for the modern guitar at that time. And so one of the composers that Segovia contacted was Torroba. This particular piece, it's a short sort of romantic canzona, if you will. It's entitled Torroba, or elegy. And the inspiration for this piece tonight, I've been playing this piece for a while, but the reason that I am playing this piece is it sort of goes back to my undergraduate years as a very young music student. One of the first master classes that I attended was at the college that I attended in Radford University, and the very first piece that I ever heard someone perform in a master class was this piece. And he was a fellow student, he was a peer of mine, he was performing, and I thought he just played it beautifully. And then the teacher that he played for gave him some very, solid musical advice and so forth. And I just remember thinking, wow, that piece is really beautiful, but I never learned it until I got the position here at Sand Hills Community College. And my predecessor, Danny Infantino, he left some things in the office as he after he moved out, and some of the things were like musical scores and books and things like that. So of course I was rummaging through them and kind of looking to see if there's anything I could use to teach and as a young instructor, and lo and behold, I run across this score, and it brought me back just a flood of memories from that first experience I had with it as a young undergraduate. And I thought, I have to learn this piece. And it wasn't until about 8 or 9 years later that I actually revisited it and then learned it. And I'm so thankful I did, because it's one of the favorite pieces in my concert rep. So this is Torroba by Federico Marina Torroba. last piece on my little virtual mini recital tonight is by Brazilian composer Heitor Villa-Lobos, another 20th century composer that also had very extensive correspondence with Andre Segovia. This particular piece also takes me back to undergrad. This is one of the, one of the early pieces that I learned. It is actually one of the first, what I consider to be a very difficult piece that I learned, both technically and really especially musically. I remember when I was working on it, I didn't understand it. As you'll hear, it's got some sort of eccentric harmonies, a very colorful harmonic palette. But not only that, the melody is sort of unusual in this, especially in the opening section. The melody is actually in the bass. Villa-Lobos was himself a cellist, and I can't help but think that he was thinking about the cello when he was writing this particular melody. And so, one of the challenges for the guitarist, especially with this piece, is to really sort of bring that melody out and to accentuate perhaps some of the similarities that we have with other stringed instruments. In this case, in my opinion, it's the cello. Before I do play this, I want to thank a couple people. I want to thank first and foremost Dr. Dempsey for inviting me to play on this virtual concert series. And in conjunction with Dr. Dempsey, also David Michael Wolf in the Carolina Philharmonic. It was really his idea. I think it was a wonderful idea. And, in a time when we have so much uncertainty, when people are stuck at home and not really going out, it's things like this that help to bring people together. It gives people entertainment, it gives people joy, and it still allows people to watch live performances. And honestly, to me, it hopefully means more that it's from folks in our little community of Moore County. So I'm very humbled and very thankful to be included with such a great lineup as David Michael Wolf and Dr. Christina Hinkle. So thanks to you all, and also thanks to Steve Malone for running sound and doing the video. He always does a fantastic job. He knows I think the world of him. And so with that, I will play this concert out with Prelude Number 1 by Heitor Villa-Lobos. Thank you all very much for watching, and stay safe.